So, Ariel, how many times are you allowed to reboot a podcast before you get arrested?
Get arrested? Who's going to arrest us?
The podcast police.
There's podcast police?
There are now.
Oh.
So, you might be able to hear a dog barking in the background. That's because we're recording from a special location. Where are we at, Ariel?
We are in the treetops of Cedar Haven.
We are currently about a third of the way up a cedar tree.
Psst, stop it.
And our dachshund, Agnes, she's really confused about how we got up here and is quite alarmed. And we can't bring her up here because all the walls aren't together yet.
It'd be too dangerous.
No, go away, Agnes. Go. Get. Little wiener. Agnes.
We should have put her inside.
Go home, Agnes. Go home. We'll see. We'll try to continue. We might just have a soundtrack.
I guess the the better question should be, how many times can you change directions of your life before getting arrested?
As many times as you need.
Yeah.
Well, so no, but it's not totally a change of direction. So here's the thing. We are currently in a treehouse,
Yes.
partway up a cedar tree,
It's very cool.
in a treehouse that I helped build about 25 years ago when I was younger than Arwen. And over the summer, I tore it out and rebuilt it.
Over this summer.
Over this summer, I tore it out and rebuilt it, made it new, made it afresh, and now it is safe to stand in once more. So the reason is because we are on my family's property in eastern Kansas. So when most people think of Kansas, they think of like flat brownness.
They think
of
the Wizard of Oz.
Right, which is what most of Kansas is. But once you get to eastern Kansas and you start butting up against the border of Missouri, you've got some nice rolling wooded hills and rivers to frolic in. And so that's where this property is located. We'll do an episode that kind of goes into a deep dive behind how the property came to be and whatnot. But basically, this is where my grandparents built their house 40 years ago. My mom, I think, had just graduated high school, actually. So I don't think ever actually lived out here. But my aunts and uncles did, and they grew up, bought property next, or took slices off the property, built their own houses. So we have a nice big family compound here. This is where I spend all of my summers and Christmas breaks and Thanksgiving breaks. And looking back on it now with like the retrospect of an adult thinking about my childhood, this was probably the one space during my childhood that always felt safe to me and always felt there wasn't like this undercurrent of chaos that I was subconsciously picking up on, even though, I mean, every family has their dysfunction and I'm sure there were things going on here, but like for me as a kid, this was a place that was always like that. And it's always been in the plans, in the stars, to eventually move up here. And so that's actually where a lot of the RV thing came from. So what we never told people, really, we never really talked about, is that we plan on moving from San Angelo to Kansas.
Yes.
But we thought, hey, while we're doing that, let's take a detour. And so some people might recall, we thought about living overseas for a few years. Then we thought, doing the RV thing. So we decided, let's do the RV thing. Since we're going to be uprooting our entire lives anyways, let's go travel around the country.
Yeah.
Live in an RV for a while, and then when we're ready, we'll come to Kansas.
Right.
Yeah. So we did that, and it did not last nearly as long as we thought it would.
We pretty much did the full-time RV life about 2.5 months.
Oh, yeah. We did the semi-RV. Well, here's the thing. We've been doing our full-time RV life.
Oh, well, since
For
February,
about...
the end of February.
Yeah, for about 6 months.
Yeah.
But we were only fully remote, fully away from any place that we knew for 2 full months. Yeah. And now we're officially off the road for now.
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the way that the dice rolled.
And by dice, she means we were running out of money.
Exactly. We had no dice. That's
Well,
the
here's
point.
the thing. We didn't. I just kicked a board. There's still some construction boards up here.
Careful, please.
So we're not like out of money.
no.
But
We almost were.
well, it's not even that really. It's just we realized that if we continued with this in the way we were going, we would just burn through most of our savings, and that wasn't responsible. We didn't want to be in like a worse financial position by the time we got out of RVing than we were when we went in, and so we thought, okay, let's figure out how to make this work while being stationary and not spending $1,000 a month on campground fees.
Right.
And stuff like that. And so,
And food and gas.
yes. So the nice thing is up here at the farm, we call it the farm. We don't actually have any animals yet.
We
We've just always
will.
called it the farm.
We will, though.
But so what we decided, was to come to Kansas and just kind of figure out the next step, whether that was how to get back on the road or
Yeah.
what we were doing. And it just so happened that at the same time we were coming up here, my sister's family was also moving up here
Yes.
to basically take over the property as far as helping the grandparents. They're still on the property. They're still living here, still doing well. But there's just a lot to take care of for two people in their late 70s. So now we're all here helping. And it's a 3-story farmhouse, if you count the finished basement. So my sister's family moved upstairs. We had an RV pad built.
Yes.
Near
It's
the
actually
barn.
really nice.
Yeah, and so we have a great setup. We're still in our RV.
Yeah.
We still are a full-time RV family.
We're just stationary.
We just also have a 3-story farmhouse that we use as well.
Yeah.
So now we are engaged in this interesting multi-family, multi-generational new experiment of all of us living together and contributing and buying groceries together.
Cooking
and
for each other.
et cetera. So the thing is, we have our 2 kids, and Milo's 2.5, Arwen is 7, and her cousin Scarlett is 11, 12 days younger than her.
12 days, yeah.
They're best buds, and so kids have been having a wonderful time. And
They think it's the best thing ever.
oh yeah, and it's great.
It is really great. It is. It's just hard because we had expectations.
Sure.
And that's what it sucks because I always try to not have any expectations because I know that I'll
Yeah.
be disappointed.
Well, I guess we should explain why we ran out of money. So here's the thing.
We had a lot of savings. We had not a ton of savings, but we had enough to give us a nice cushion between Logan leaving San Angelo and leaving by the stream and finding other means of income and work remotely. However, he was not really able to have consistent income that way.
Well, okay, you make it sound like a PR statement.
That's just truth, though. You weren't able to make any
Right.
money.
Well, it's a much longer journey than that, though.
Okay, then you explain it, because this is what I think. That's the brass tacks.
We're doing couples therapy here on the podcast in a tree house with a
I
dachshund
mean, I'm not angry.
at our feet.
I'm not angry or anything.
Well, so here's what happened is, when I was leaving my previous company, I just felt like felt like I was done. I had done all that I could at that company. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to help scale it the way that I would want it to be scaled if I was going to spend another 20 years there. And just wanted to do something else, but not totally sure what. Didn't really know what wanted life to look like. And so as I was leaving my company last year, I was starting a new company that was going to do content marketing and podcasting and stuff like that. As I was getting that ready, though, I also started feeling like I really didn't want to start another company because I was just at a point in my life where, we were doing the RV renovation, and I was in a point in my life where we were uprooting everything. I was experiencing a pretty intense loss of identity. Like everything about who I was in my teens and 20s felt like it had shifted. A lot of my core relationships had dramatically shifted in the past months before we left. And there was I was also just dealing with a deep sense of anger and just how to deal with that, and feeling lost, like I had no mentors, because it seems like every man that I know has just navigated life so poorly. It's like I have nobody to look up to, man.
Yeah,
You know?
it's pretty rare.
man.
We have a couple.
Yeah.
We do.
And
but-
anyways, and just I wasn't in a state where I had the mental energy or the motivation or just the sense of wonder that is sometimes required to really grind and push forward for a business. And so even though I was kind of getting this business started, at the same time I was thinking, I just want to go work for somebody else for a while until we get on our feet, until I kind of decide what direction I want to go. And so I was like, oh, I'll just apply for a remote job. And so it wasn't like a hard decision, but I kind of started shifting from building this new business out to applying for jobs while I'm still transitioning out of my old business.
Right.
And so I started applying for remote jobs probably in November of last year.
Yeah, it was about November.
And I did not receive my first interview for a remote job until June of 2022.
The job market is absolutely horrific.
Well, I think there's a few things that really played against me there. One is I'm probably not good at writing a resume because I've never had a real job, ever. I don't even know what it's like to have a real job. I don't know what to put on a resume. I looked up some examples, but there's a few things going on there. One is that I started applying for jobs right when the kind of return to work things were going out, which means a lot of companies that were remote during the pandemic started telling their employees they had to come back in the office. And a lot of those people who were working remotely literally said, I would rather switch jobs and keep working remotely than go back in the office. And so suddenly the work pool of people was flooded with people looking for remote jobs, more so than it already is. The second thing was I probably could have and still could find a remote job tomorrow if I was willing to do like data entry or some scummy sales job. Like there are still a lot of remote jobs out there that I would be qualified for. But part of the problem is I was still wanting to like be in my field somewhere doing something with all of these weird creative things that I have going on in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the problem though is that anything with creativity is huge competition because everybody wants to work.
Everybody wants to
Because
work.
being in a creative field is one of the few fields that doesn't feel just absolutely soul crushing every day.
Right.
So top of that, with any remote job that's truly fully remote, because a lot of remote jobs are actually
hybrid.
or they're hybrid or they're remote but they're geographically restricted. Like you could be remote in the DC area or in the Los Angeles, you know what I mean?
Right.
So any job that's truly fully remote and in the creative industry means that the available pool of candidates is literally the entire nation. So every remote job that I applied for, I would say the average was probably about 300 candidates within 24, 48 hours.
That's crazy.
Just on LinkedIn. So that's not even counting like Indeed and some of these other sites. A lot of them had over 500 applicants. And
That's
so
insane.
at that point, it's literally about luck,
Yeah.
right?
It is.
So then actually I started lowering my standards and stuff. But then I did find a fully remote podcasting job that got in
Yes.
contact with me.
It was like perfect.
Legit company, a tech startup out of Singapore, and they were wanting somebody to basically a job where somebody would just be interviewing prominent business leaders in America. It's like, this sounds awesome, help me build some social capital. And I got through to the third round interview and they
I know,
wanted
we
somebody
were
else.
so
Yeah.
hopeful.
I mean, I think they said by the time I got to my third round interview, they had upwards of 900 applicants. And
Yeah.
I got down to the last few and even met with the CEO and everything like that, and they went with somebody else. And that took me a little bit to recover from.
I know, it took you, and it was pretty crushing for you. And
Oh, man. I
You
mean,
took a
in
break
retrospect,
from
it would have been a
applying.
really boring job, but it would have been a great, stair step.
yeah,
You know?
it would have been.
So yeah, there was that. I think that my resume is very off-putting because I've been an entrepreneur. I just ran off to Africa to shoot a documentary randomly.
Yeah.
And living in an RV. Like nobody wants to hire somebody who's a wild animal.
A nomad.
Yeah.
Basically.
I really should have lied a lot more on my resume. That's the
Possibly.
problem.
I mean, or just omitted certain things, but
Yeah.
you know, you're just
Yeah.
an honest person.
Because
you
the thing
can't
is,
help it.
people don't want to hire people who take risks
Yeah.
or who have interests. They want to hire worker bees who they feel like are going to. And here's the thing: as somebody who's owned a business, you know, I've been in conversations about hiring people.
You can
and
understand that.
I remember thinking like, we want to hire somebody who has a wife and kids because they're less likely to just up and leave somewhere. You know,
Right.
we want somebody who's chained economically to the 9 to 5
Yes.
so that they will never leave.
Working 9 to 5.
So long story short, we decided, well, okay, we're running out of money. The job search is not going well. I could either just go get a remote job that's kind of sucky, or we could go to Kansas and just figure out what to do next. So we started that, and then throughout the summer, just figured out. Long story short, between the two of us, we have about 3 local non-remote jobs that we're closing in on.
Yeah.
So it's looking good now.
It is.
It
It's
is looking good now.
much better.
But yeah, so I would say I'm frustrated, mostly embarrassed.
Your pride has been hit, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, at the same time, this is something I said. There's an airplane passing overhead through the trees.
Should we wait it out?
We'll be all right. It's the perks of shooting outside, baby. I mean, something that I did remember saying all throughout our RV renovation was that I would rather be the kind of person who fails at living large and having an extraordinary life than succeed at just living the same life everybody else is.
This is true.
You know, I'd still rather have utterly failed, which we didn't fail. We did it.
No,
we did
it's
it,
not a complete failure.
It just didn't last as long as we thought it would.
Exactly.
Yet. You know,
and
we'll be back on the
I
road
still
one
think that
day.
we can figure it out eventually.
Yeah,
It will
but
get there.
I would rather fail at doing exciting, cool stuff. Oh, that was crazy
What
bird.
the heck?
The bird agrees with me. Than succeed at being really, really boring.
Okay, now don't like make people who have a regular 9 to 5 life feel bad.
Oh, I'm sure they have very exciting lives when they get to go to their weekly sports things.
Babe,
I don't know.
stop it.
What?
Don't treat
Sorry.
our
I'm
people.
sorry.
like
Here's the
that.
thing. I don't want to get. That's the thing. I'm sure it's a wonderful life, but
It's just not a life for Logan Reynolds.
well, and here's another thing that too is that, you know, I mean, as disappointing as it is, like the perspective that I have now is that like my disappointment is somebody else's wildest dream come true.
Right.
Because my disappointment is essentially living at a resort with all of my family,
Right.
with a soccer field and a basketball goal and miles of woods.
And the cutest little
and
Hallmark town.
Getting to watch my kids, like my greatest childhood memories are there just like Tuesday afternoons.
I know, right?
You know, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed, but the perspective that I have is there's people my age who are struggling to make it at all. There's people who are just hoping that they can beat the cancer that they have, or that the government isn't going to come and kill them.
Yeah.
And so I don't have anything to complain about,
Right.
for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm disappointed because I had these expectations and very publicly have
Right,
kind of
like
failed. But
Yeah, we're kind of out in the open there.
I'm still so incredibly fortunate, and I
Yeah.
still have led, you know, up so far. I've just a really awesome life, and I've ridden a boat on the Amazon and gotten to walk alongside glaciers in Alaska and touched the stones of Stonehenge
Right.
and climbed mountains in
Which
Africa.
we only did one time because you're actually not supposed to touch the stones of stone.
Oh snap! No, I didn't touch any stones. That was a joke. That was a metaphor.
What is it? You stood in the middle.
Yeah. You know, and so, I mean, I have nothing to complain about. I mean, not to say that, like, I'm not allowed to have problems. I'm still allowed to have
Right.
problems. But my perspective is,
It is important to make sure that you do look at it with a good perspective and
yeah.
not allow it to consume you.
So anyways, my perspective is that we're healthy. We're living a great life. We're out here in the woods. I get to build tree houses in my spare time and go shoot bow and arrows and ride bikes, and it's great. And we're living very cheaply because we're all sharing this property. We're all contributing.
We still don't have a mortgage.
We still don't have a mortgage, which is pretty great. So this property is paid off. So all we do is pay taxes on it. So my grandparents pay a certain amount every year. So we're all paying into that
And
now.
we're all pitching in.
And it's still way cheaper than staying in a campground or anything like that.
Yep.
And yeah, so actually, I guess we should talk about what we're doing next then.
Right. So, like he said before, we're still in the RV. We're just stationary. And we plan to stay in the RV for the time being because it's working fine.
We even enrolled Arwen in school because her cousins were going to school.
She's in school now, public school.
She's
and
loving it.
She loves it, little social butterfly that she is. And Milo's still at home with me, and he is having the time of his life because he gets to be a big boy with all of his older cousins. And
He just loves being outside. He's
gosh,
such a farm
does.
boy already.
He loves being outside.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we are starting to kind of set down some roots here. This, like I said, this was our planning to be our home base anyway.
Yeah.
So we're like, we're starting to establish care at the doctor's office, and we're
Open a bank account.
opened a bank account, and like all of that grown-up stuff. And then for me, I am almost done with my substitute teaching licensure process. I should be done with that either this week or next week, and then I'm going to start substitute teaching.
Substitute.
Yes, for a little bit of extra money. And then Logan, he's in the running now for 2 jobs,
Let's just say that by the time you're listening to this podcast, I'll probably have a job,
hopefully.
depending on when I release this. So
Yeah.
probably shouldn't talk about too much more
Yeah,
for confidentiality.
we're not gonna really say anything else about that
Yeah.
for the time being. But things are looking up, and it's a good place to be. I think whenever we were like, okay, we need to really examine, we don't have any good income coming in, and the money is quickly bleeding away, and you have to kind of swallow your pride and say, all right, we need to reevaluate, and I think where we landed is good.
Yeah. Probably should have had another job lined up before I left, but I didn't feel like it. Again, the reason is because I did.
I like how you said,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it.
Well, the reason is because I really changed my mind about starting
Exactly.
really going, which I do technically still have the business, but it's like going full ahead with that
Yeah.
as we were leaving.
Right.
Which I think I will maybe someday in the future.
We'll eventually probably have something to do with
But
that. Yeah.
for now, we're just trying to get on our feet. And we're really excited about, basically from here on out, we're going to be making content about the McCune family farm. I don't know if we're going to call it that.
Multi-generational farm living.
But kind of an insight into, a lot of people have been interested just locally into how this works,
Right.
having multiple families all living in one house, but
There's
with their own
always
separate
lots
areas.
of questions.
How we make it work with meal times and money
And disagreements.
discipline and
Yeah.
disagreements and having, 3, sometimes 4 generations present.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of cool content we're going to make and cool characters to meet, places to explore. So we're excited about it, about getting out in the woods,
Yeah.
staying up in tree houses. So from now on, we're going to be recording most of our podcasts in treehouse
In the treehouse.
In the treehouse.
In Cedar Haven.
in Cedar Haven. So a lot more that we could say. I think in further episodes, obviously we'll talk about things on the farm, but
Yeah.
I think I would like to later on elaborate more about what I've been processing, especially while we were on the road,
Right.
but also just over the past year.
Yeah, because honestly, I think this is definitely. I have no regrets or wish that we had done it any differently. This has been the best thing for us. Moving from San Angelo has been the best thing for us, and obviously we missed certain relationships there, but I haven't really missed Texas at all. So,
I miss Buttercup.
well, that's true. I do miss Buttercup coffee.
Yeah.
If you ever hear this, owners of Buttercup, we miss you, and we miss your delicious coffee.
I have their number. I could call.
know.
Have them ship us some stuff. So, anyways, because there's two things I can think of. One is just the process I feel like I went through, where as soon as we drove away from San Angelo, I probably spent the first month on the road processing things that I feel like I wasn't able to process while I was there. I needed some geographical distance.
It
for
was
sure.
honestly, because we sold our house, when we drove away from San Angelo and we knew it was for good, Like, I just felt this incredible weight just
Yeah.
come off
Felt
of me.
it in my body.
I
It was so
did. I
weird.
felt it in my body, and it was like this crazy release of tension and of stress.
It's like breaking up with an ex.
And
Actually,
I
don't know.
just
I've never
felt
broken up
so
with an ex.
giddy. And I remember, didn't I laugh? And I said, we did it.
Yeah.
we got out. And I just
Yeah.
like laughed almost uncontrollably because I was like feeling all that stuff like bubbling up and out of me.
I'm pretty sure you even like rolled down the window and you stuck 2 middle fingers out
No, I
at the
did
sign,
not.
at the
I
city,
did
city
not.
limit sign as we were leaving.
No, I did not do that.
I'm pretty sure you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
You
maybe I'm imagining that.
I did not do that. Don't.
In my head, you did. Metaphorically
Okay.
speaking.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it was a wondrous healing thing, and we are still healing and still processing, and it gets better all the time. So
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I would say, yeah, for me, it was like the first month was really learning to part with my anger. I think I had just like my base level mood the past, not even just the past year, really the past like 2 years maybe, had been pretty grumpy. And yeah, there's just some deep stuff down there. I wish we had a free traveling therapist we could go to, but the mountains are pretty good therapy.
Any therapists listening to this, hit us up
So-
because we're looking for a good one.
And then after that, after that job thing in June/July, I think I woke up on my birthday to see that I had been passed over from the
yeah,
job.
that sucks.
I was like, oh, come on.
It really does.
But man, that put me on a journey for a few weeks of really seeing how I had a really unhealthy relationship with creativity and how a lot of stuff going back to as a teenager about how I'm seen and valued.
Right.
Just a lot of work that was good work, but sucks.
Good work, man.
Anyways, we'll elaborate on that later. But what we are doing here in a few weeks is chopping down 2 huge trees.
Trees.
I'm excited
and
about
yes, and then Maple Leaf Festival.
Maple Leaf Festival's coming up.
And then we'll go get to see my mom for Thanksgiving. Yay!
We're gonna go to
Shout out
Science
to
City.
my mom. Hi. And Jim. Love you guys.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's
Gonna
a good
feast on
life,
some
guys.
chickens.
It's a good life. And I'm really thankful that we're here and what brought us here. Whoa. That was a hedge apple.
A hedge apple just fell out of a tree.
Dude, okay, that is something
onto the ground.
that terrifies me about walking in the
Now
woods.
our wiener dog Agnes is sniffing it. What if another one falls? That would crush her skull.
could.
If one fell on
Those
her.
are so hard. Anyway,
So yeah, I think our next episode will be an introduction to Cedar Haven
yes.
and the family farm,
Yep.
which will be exciting. This is more of a transitional episode from Reynolds on
We
the
just
Run to
needed
whatever's
to
next.
address the elephant in the room per se, because lots of people have been asking, what are you up to now? When are you getting back on the road? What's happening? I'm like, this is what's happening, guys. Like, life has kind of changed dramatically and quickly.
Nobody's asked me that. I don't think people
People
don't talk to
ask me that all the time, babe.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's because you're the woman and men don't talk to each other.
I guess not. I don't know. I get lots of questions.
So anyways, Reynolds on the Run is now Reynolds
On the farm?
on the farm. We're going to come up with a better name.
we're still working on that, but
Still better than the suburbs.
yep. I don't miss it.
All right, we're going to sign out. You want to do the sign out song?
What's the sign out song?
We practiced this.
We did?
Yeah.
I don't remember this. So long.
No, okay, okay, stop. We're done. I thought it was going to be funny, and now I'm realizing it was just a terrible idea.
What? I know how to sing that song.
Okay, we're going to leave before we embarrass ourselves.
Bye.
All right, Reynolds out.